Welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show, News Talk KFYO. We go to the phones, and joining us, always a pleasure to visit with our next guest, the Lieutenant Governor of our great state. It's Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. Governor, good morning. How are you this morning?
Hey, I'm great, Chad. And, I've done those double shifts before, morning drive and afternoon drive, so I don't envy you, but I know you're anchoring it just fine.
Well,
so,
thank you. I appreciate that. It's fine. It's a good time.
Yeah, I've done that before for sure. So I know it's not easy. Hey, we're kicking off a session differently, Chad, than we've ever done before. We're dealing with obviously COVID. We're the only capital. I don't want to say the only, but one of, you can count on one finger, or one hand, I think, that are trying to get the public to come in the building. The U.S. Capitol is closed. Most states' capitals are closed. Many states are virtual only with virtual, senators and representatives. We're actually trying to do what we normally do, and that is be normal as we can with as least restrictions as we can. We want to keep the public safe when they come in. We want to keep our staff and our members safe. There's about 1,500 people that just work in the Capitol alone. If you had a couple thousand people coming in a day, and the crowds have been pretty light, Chad, so far, 300 to 600 a day coming in. But we're trying to wrestle that alligator called COVID, because I want the public to be able to come in and testify in person in front of real people. I want the public to be able to come in and sit in the galleries, and I want the public to be able to come in and visit their members. And so that's a whole new set of issues that we face this session. And so far, I think the House has had several positive tests of members. We have not had any yet in the Senate. We test people, a 15-minute test. We don't keep any data. We set up some tents outside so people can come in and get tested for free, and so they can feel more comfortable coming into the Capitol. But overall, I think we've been fine. Every day we find, Chad, people who test positive in the tent. So because it's pretty hard, Chad. You've been to the Capitol, done your show. Pretty hard to social distance in the hallways and various places. So that's a challenge, obviously. And now dealing with the Biden administration compared to the Trump administration, where we could pick up the phone and call the White House and say, "Hey, we need this," and the president would return the call. So I don't think Biden could be returning any of my calls. And so we're moving forward. Finance started yesterday. Our hearings, redistricting hearings, started 2 weeks ago. So we're getting there. And so I just tell the people when they come to the Capitol, we're limiting larger groups from the past, and we're not having people on the floor like we would bring on, like a senator would bring on the high school basketball team that won the championship or football team. We've kind of tried to eliminate some of those issues because our main issue, Chad, is for the public to be able to come in and have their voice heard and to talk to their members. And again, I don't want to say we're the only Capitol in the country, but there's very few doing it like we're trying to do it. And of course, we're the biggest of all. And I think California and New York, they're shut down. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about some possible legislation that we could be seeing coming out of not only the Senate but the House, and if signed off on by the governor, that would become law. One story in particular that I want to get to first, and
Sure.
It was you have the Dallas Morning News that reported yesterday of a new sports betting alliance. It's with some of the different sports teams in Dallas, and I'm sure Houston and other places. We had a report on yesterday with Scott Braddock, who said that he had talked to sources who said that you had told lawmakers that you would not necessarily stand in the way of a sports betting bill if it made financial sense, that if it were to bring in money, that it would be a different dynamic.
Just absolutely not true. I don't know where he got his sources. I found it interesting, Chad, that the Dallas Morning News, basically their sources said that I was the guy holding up any gambling bill, and Scott said I was ready to let it go. So I think it tells you all you need to know about sources. They hear what they want to hear, or some people say what they want to say, but didn't say it. In fact, here's something interesting, Chad. The reason what Scott said yesterday was so absolutely wrong was because every year people from casinos or sports gambling or the sports teams. Every year they come and they lobby to pass a bill on something. And every year I tell them the same thing, which is absolutely opposite, again, of what Scott believes the sources told him. I tell them, don't talk about revenues, because the sports gaming, for example, that they're trying to push, the teams are trying to push this session, Chad, that generates, by their numbers, $150 million a year. Well, Chad, let me tell you how much that pays for of our budget. That's a lot of money, but it pays for about a half a day of our total year. And I've said to them, I said, look, the people were fooled many years ago when the lottery is going to pay for education.
Right.
The lottery pays for several days of education in the whole year. So our budget's $125 billion, roughly, a year. $125 billion. We're the ninth largest economy in the world. We're a nation state. So $150 million is a lot of money, and I find ways to save that kind of money and a lot more all the time. But my whole point is what Scott told you yesterday, that I said, well, if it generates revenues, I wouldn't stop a bill. It's just the opposite of what I have said always. And even casinos say they'll generate about $700 million in tax dollars, a lot of money. But it's equivalent to about 3 days out of 365 days a year of our total budget. So my point is, what I've always told them, if you want to pitch your casinos or you pitch your sports books, talk about jobs, talk about tourism, don't try to tell the public, well, or the members, because the members know better. And so it doesn't move any votes. So I don't know where Scott got his information. I'm sure he believed he heard it correctly, or someone. But not only didn't I say it, in fact, I don't even think we talked about it in caucus, to be honest with you. So I don't know where he got the information. But
what are your thoughts just overall on sports betting and on legalized sports betting in Texas?
Yeah. Well, Scott, we don't even have a bill that has been filed in the Senate on the issue. We are nowhere close to having the votes for it. First of all, if you have a casino or sports betting, either one, and the latest thing is betting on your telephone for ball games and that,
right?
And most people who support it, and it's upside down with a lot of Republican voters. I mean, in other words, more or against it than for it. There's some people who are for it, but we don't even have a sponsor. You have to get a constitutional amendment because you have to change all the laws. So that means you have to have 21 out of 31 votes in the Senate and 100 out of 150 in the House. Now, the Democrats are all in, but it's not, when you don't even have a sponsor, it's not even a bill you spend much time on or think about, because we have hundreds and thousands of bills filed. Most will never see the light of day, so I don't spend much time on it because the members are just against it. So, the governor hasn't, governor doesn't spend any time on it. You haven't heard him speak about it. You haven't heard the speaker speak about it or me. We don't deal in hypotheticals. So I've never been in favor of it. But if you have 27 or 28 members that come forward and say, hey, look, then you look at something.
Right.
But even then, I would, I'm not a big supporter of it. However, you're not going to get 27 or 28 people. First of all, you got to have a bill, so it's not going to go anywhere. And every year, and one of the reasons, Todd, is it's just, Chad. One of the reasons, Chad, is that you've got so many competing interests. The racetracks want it, but the casinos don't want them. You got the sports teams that want sports betting. You got Oklahoma and Louisiana fighting against it. You got Las Vegas fighting against it. You got some Las Vegas. I've never seen it. It's usually most issues are two-sided. There's so much infighting and competition amongst all the people in that arena. That's why it never goes anywhere. And so it's not even an issue that's going to see the light of day this session. There may be a bill filed. I doubt it in the Senate.
I've got about 2 minutes left before we have to get going. I know you have to as well.
Yeah.
But I do want to ask you, what are a couple of your main priorities that you want to get through besides the budget, redistricting?
Yeah.
Sure. Besides all of that, but what are one or two of your main priorities that you want to get through?
Yeah. And my main priorities, Chad, are always the people's priorities and my senator's priorities. I have some of my own ideas in there, but it's from all the time I spend traveling around the state, listening to folks. And so, number one for me, and I'll be releasing our priorities. The the lieutenant governor has 30 low bill numbers. This time it's 31, and everybody wants a low bill number because that means I'm for it, and we're, and the bill has a great chance of passing. So in my first session in 15, we had 20 low bill numbers and 30 and 30. So we've had 80 priority bills so far since I'm the lieutenant governor, and we passed 79 out of the 80 out of the Senate. They didn't all pass the House, but a lot made it to the governor's desk, including billions of dollars in tax cuts and pro-life legislation and Second Amendment legislation. But this session, and those will be included as well, Second Amendment, pro-life. Number one, Chad, we have to pass a bill, and the governor talked about this in his State of the State, to limit liability for businesses of being sued for any COVID issue. Because you will have the trial lawyers out there who raise about 80% of the money for the Democrats suing every business everywhere they can, years after the fact. Well, my friend slept in your motel last night and he got sick, and I think it's because you didn't clean your room right 2 years ago. So we've got to protect all businesses, number one, so our economy keeps moving. Number two, we have to have election reform, strong election reform with a paper trail on the ballots. We passed a bill out of the Senate last time. Unfortunately, it didn't pass in the House. So we're going to do that again. We've got some key pro-life bills, key pro-law enforcement bills, bail reform bills, because we got judges in our big cities and even our smaller towns, not so much in your neck of the woods, who are letting out felons on the street. Yeah. So there's a long list of key issues, but election accountability is key. Continuing to protect life against the Biden administration, and business liability. So small businesses are having a tough enough time as it is, Chad. We can't have them sued out of existence. Yeah. And so that's and look, your senator, Charles Perry out there, he's as rock solid of a conservative as anybody in the country. And so he's got a pretty good slate of strong legislation on a number of issues, and broadband is another key. It's really been exposed around the nation and in Texas as well. You've got pockets in rural Texas, east, central, or west, that don't have good broadband, and in some of our inner cities they have the broadband, but it's not much access. So that's in my top 10 bills, those are three issues. I haven't slotted them all yet, but they will all be part of at least the top 10. And then we'll have 31 high priority bills, and we'll lay them out later this week, early next week.
Very good.
Hey, Chad, always a pleasure. I wish I could listen to you every day. I got two shots now.
Yeah, sure. You got two shots to get in. Absolutely. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick.
Hey, thank you, Chad.
Always a pleasure to visit with you. Let's visit again soon.
All right, thanks.